Hello, I'm Tony Craig. This is F1 Grandstand, and this is your daily Formula One news. Well, Max doubles down. How do we say that? Max doubles down on his opinion on the F1 2026 cars. What is the outcome of the FOM's meeting today with all of the teams about the rule changes? We've got a rundown of Bahrain Day Four. Ferrari have got a new flap. Cadillac are facing a ban, and Williams, who ate all the pies. Yes, if you are a Formula One fan, of course you're in the right place. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Smash a like on the video if you do enjoy it. And when you do subscribe, make sure you've got the bell all icon ticked so you can choose which pieces of content that you engage with, and you're in control. So I'm going to say a quick hello at the chat. And by the way, I'm sorry if you didn't get a notification. It's because I set the stream up too late. So you would have normally got notified half an hour early. You didn't, because I was running super late from work, and it took me a while to get the stream set up. So I do apologize if you didn't get a notification. Hopefully you will find us. Hey Summer, hey Drop Tuned, hey Gemma, Queen of the Chat, hey Nathan, Dawley's in there, Anthony's in there, Flaxton's in there. Oh, I'm glad some of you know we're on, because I never miss it. Even if you don't get your notification, I will be here. 7:30. Hey, F1 Fanatic. Hello from Canada. I love Canada. Right. So yes, we have got quite a lot to get into today. I wasn't able to do a watch along for Bahrain Day 4, but I will be doing a watch along for Day 5 and Day 6. That's Thursday and Friday, 2:30 GMT. So I will see you all then. But here we go. First story. We've got, we need to set up this. Okay. So the FIA / Formula One management, big meeting today with all the teams to discuss, well, the top thing on the agenda was Mercedes engine, their power unit, their compression ratio trick. Now, what was really interesting, before we get to the outcome of that meeting on some of those issues, the first thing that we need to talk about is the secret test. The secret test. So let me show you what this is about. So I told you last week that when all of this came out and all the teams were complaining about Mercedes power unit, that the FIA said, oh, well, don't worry, we've done some secret tests on the Mercedes power unit and it's okay, nothing to see here. And everyone's like, what? What are you talking about? Where's the data? What tests did you actually do? Well, now we know what tests they actually did. Okay, so I'm going to put the quote. So a delegation of FIA stewards visited Mercedes F1 engine factory in Brixworth last week and tested their power unit in hot conditions, despite the 2026 regulation stating that the FIA checks them at ambient temperatures. And in the FIA's hot conditions, the engine passed. Okay, yet Mercedes rivals think FIA power unit director Vincent Perem needed to test the power unit in hotter conditions. So this is what we found out. The FIA started the Mercedes engine. They got it running up to 115 degrees, but then they had to wait for it to cool down again to 75 degrees before being able to disassemble the unit for testing. And the FIA were trying to say, well, it passed our secret test. That's not race temperature, 75 degrees, is it? That sounds like you're just trying to, get Mercedes engine through because you don't want to have to change the regulations. However, it hasn't worked out. And we're going to come to what that means, because this just all points to, really, I think, the FIA really trying to help Mercedes out here. There's nothing to see here. We've done some more tests. We tested it when it was hot. And then it turns out they didn't test it when it was really hot. They tested it when it was tepid. It was like tepid temperatures, but it certainly isn't race temperatures. And they were trying to pass it off as, hey, we've tested it when it was hot. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. You tested it 75 degrees. That's not good enough. And everyone knew that. So, which brings us to today's FOM. And I should actually point this out as well. People were wondering, well, what are Mercedes actually doing with that engine? Is it thermal? expansion dynamics? Is it something else? And this is what people think they're doing. So Mercedes are believed to have designed a second micro chamber inside the cylinder head that measures no more than 2 cubic centimeters, which fills with air at room temperature to meet the 16:1 compression rate limit. But the second chamber is ineffective at working temperatures. So whilst it's cool, air fills up that little gap. So when you do a compression test at ambient temperature, it's 16:1. But then when the engine starts to get to race temperatures, that little chamber, all that air is expelled and you get the extra volume for the compression rate, which is quite clever if that's what they're doing, but it's not legal, is it? Anyway, so this is what has been agreed so far. So today, this still needs to be signed off, but this is where they're up to, just to fill you in. The FIA now set to change the 2026 F1 engine tests mid-season after Ferrari raised Mercedes complaints. It's not just Ferrari, everyone other than Mercedes. So this is what has been agreed in principle. Let me just bring up. So the FIA agrees to test compression rates in hot conditions following complaints about Mercedes engine. The FIA has repeatedly cleared Mercedes' 2026 F1 engine as the power unit meets the 16:1 compression rate test. And as the regulations state, it's only checked in ambient conditions. The FIA has cleared Mercedes' 26 engine in hot conditions also following tests last week. As you know, it wasn't hot conditions, it was tepid conditions, as we have just seen. But yet, the topic of compression rates and Mercedes' 26 power unit was discussed in the F1 Commission meeting in Bahrain today, and the FIA is now due to change the way it tests engines. But the changes to the FIA's test will only come into effect on August the 1st, 2026. So they've got like, what's that? 6 months-ish? Now, according to Canal Plus reporter Julien Fabreau, who notes the initial feedback in Bahrain paddock following the F1 Commission meeting was that the FIA has agreed for the new test compression rates in hot conditions from the second half of the season. Now, what they're basically saying is Formula One breaks for the summer following the Hungarian Grand Prix in round 13, and it's set to be held on 24th to the 26th of July. Then they return for the Dutch Grand Prix August 21st, at which point the FIA's new engine checks will come into full effect. So the thing is, it still needs to be ratified by the World Motorsports Council, which it will be, but that's just a bit of a box ticking exercise. So that's how it is. It's looking like the handshake's been done, the agreement's been made, it gets ratified by the World Motorsport Council, and then that's it. But it's pretty good news for Mercedes, because what it means is they can run this engine all the way through till August without any problems, without being disqualified, without any penalty. So Mercedes have come out of this really quite well, and they've got all the time in the world till August 21st before their engine's going to start getting tested under hot temperatures. And I think Mercedes have got a big win here. I think the FIA have done them a solid. Not only were they trying to get Mercedes to not even change the test whatsoever, to try and tell the other teams, we've tested it, hot temperatures, it's fine. When we find out it was tepid temperatures and not fine, that now they've given a really, would you even call it a bridge? Mercedes have got no sanctions, no weight penalties, no fuel flow penalties, no penalties whatsoever to run that power unit. And obviously it's not just Mercedes, it's McLaren, it's Williams, it's Alpine. Yet, there's basically like saying, like if you're an athlete who's taking steroids, to go, right, if you're taking steroids, you can still compete because we're not going to test you for those steroids until 6 months down the line. So the athlete's going, brilliant. I get all of the benefit of these steroids I'm taking. And basically, they've told me they're not going to test me for them. So happy days. I'll just get off these steroids by August the 21st. And that's literally the situation that Mercedes have got. So it's like, excellent. And it's not just Mercedes, Alpine, McLaren and Williams as well. So it's a big win. It's a big win, that, for Mercedes, I think. But it also, I think for the other teams, it's clarity. Because what it does mean is that the other teams don't have to sort of go through a whole redesign process to try and gain the same advantage of, manipulating the compression rate. But Mercedes, so they don't have all that new development cost to their engines, but it means that Mercedes will have to develop new engines for them and their customer teams. And it might not be full engines. It could just be internal components, I would guess. I would guess. So yeah, that hopefully puts all that to bed. Unless the World Motorsport Council, for some reason, put a stop and don't agree. I don't think that's going to happen. I think that's the way it is. So Flaxton says, will Mercedes have to design and produce a new engine by August? Yes, because, well, if their engine... See, this is the grey area, isn't it? If they know their engine will not pass a compression ratio test at race temperatures, then yeah, they need to do something about it. But what they know right now is they're not going to get tested for that for 6 months. So how they solve that is up to them. Is that if their engine is illegal, they need to solve that. They need to pass that compression ratio test in August at hot temperatures. How they do that is up to them. What their solution's going to be, I don't know. Yeah, you're right, Ree. Compression ratio measured at hot engine temp versus idling engine, right? Where does ambient come in? Well, exactly. Well, it has been ambient. We're talking about the secret test that the FIA did when they said they measured it at hot temperatures. It wasn't hot. They measured it at 75 degrees. So a hot temperature is going to be, well, I mean, how hot do those engines run? 115, 120 degrees? So yeah, it's not good. It is good for Mercedes, but the other teams just have to accept that they may be down on power for the next 6 months, and that's the way it's going to be. That's the way it's going to be. So how Mercedes solve it, who knows? Do they need to redesign a whole new engine? Will they change something to do with the piston rods and the piston and the con rods, or whatever the internal components are of the engine? I honestly don't know. Is it just part of the engine they need to change? The main thing is, it's not like they've been told your engine's illegal. That's not what's happened. Otherwise, they won't be allowed to run. So what they're saying is, we don't know if your engine's legal or not, but we are going to test this way from August. You know whether your engine's going to pass that test or not, so you better solve it. That's up to you. But right now, your engine's legal because we're not testing in any other way than we've already decided to test, which is ambient temperatures. So it's a big win. It's a big win for Mercedes. And like I said, I think the FIA have tried every step of the way to help Mercedes to not have to not change the regulations at all. I think every step of the way. You got Vincent Perrin, who was the guy who went over to test the secret tests of the Mercedes engine, who also signed off that engine every step of the way, and also was the guy who brought in the word ambient for the way they test compression ratio. It was him because don't forget, last year it was just compression ratio test is a compression ratio test. They added the condition of ambient temperature for this year, and that was Vincent Perrin. So yeah, you've got some question marks around it, but that is your resolution. Anthony says, if they're proven guilty, can they take points away from teams or a heavy fine? Well, what will happen is, if they do the hot test in August and it doesn't pass the test, well then it's illegal. They won't be able to run with that engine. And if it was in that if that test is done after each Grand Prix and it's illegal, then they'll be disqualified from the Grand Prix, won't they? And then they'll get tested again at the next Grand Prix and get disqualified from that Grand Prix if they fail the test. That's my understanding. Jim Clark says, I think, and from what I've been told on our private F1 Engineers Facebook group, the Merc engine has spherical big ends, bearings, that as they heat up in the piston, slowly moves outwards centrifugally. That's pretty clever. So here's my question to you, Jim Clark. How would they, if they now want to pass that test, what do they change in that engine? would they get rid of the spherical big end bearings and do something like that? Or would they have to do a complete redesign of the engine? Or is it just those parts they could change? So Jim says, therefore allowing more air into the chamber. So what would be their fix for that, Jim, do you think? Is it internal parts? Right. So they would just change those parts of the engine and they'd pass. All right, brilliant. Thank you. Dawley says they need to invent a test to work at hotter temperatures without dismantling the PU. I think that's what they're working on. I'm sure they've got sensors. Nathan says that reduces sweat volume. Over my head, I don't know. This is engineer speak. Nathan says, I said this the other day, Mercedes might be supplying other customers' engines. Well, without the trick. So a change back might already be made. That's interesting. So Nathan, that can they do that? But wouldn't they literally have to sort of homologate two different engines if that was the case, Nathan? If the customer team's engine was slightly different to their engine, surely the FIA, that would be two engines that would have to be homologated to be accepted, wouldn't it? And then everyone would know that Mercedes have got a trick engine and everyone else has got the everyone else engine, right? Chef says that would be allowed. That's what homologation is for. Yeah, well, that would not. Oh, yeah, that would not be allowed because of homologation. Yeah. All in says all the nonsense that has been set up by FIA. Mercedes spoke to FIA and FIA allowed them to run the engine like that. FIA do and undo it will. Well, that's the big argument. The FIA have passed this engine every step of the way. And they even tried to push the narrative. I think it's just because Audi really, I think, might have been the loudest voice in the room. Then followed by Ferrari, then Honda, then Red Bull. I'm guessing. Well, that's the first resolution from that. And also, they are, just to give you another update on those meetings, they haven't decided yet, but they are looking at what they can do about the F1 starts. Because today in Bahrain, they were doing some practice starts. I think Hulkenberg was doing them as well. They weren't going very well. So I think the FIA are considering options for that. Whether it's longer time on the grid, allowing, the last teams to take their grid spot and then have a 10-second delay before you start the light sequence, the random light sequence. Or Andrea Stella's pushing for the battery to be able to be engaged under 50 kilometers an hour at the start, which we're not currently allowed to do. So they're going to work it out. They're discussing it. I don't know how it's going to end up. Kevin says, is the cost of change outside cost? It might come under the additional upgrade opportunities, which is outside of the cost cap. So I think that's how that'll work. Dawley says 2 formation laps, 5 seconds wait before the start sequence. Yeah, the problem is 5 seconds might not even be enough. Some of these turbos are spooling up and it's taking 10 seconds. Like over 10 seconds to start. Like, I don't know. It's pretty wild. Ferrari seem to be spooling up quicker than anyone because they've got a smaller turbo. I think that's what they're saying. They've got a smaller turbo, which allows them to spool up quicker. Because Fred Vasseur told everyone about this. Nobody listened. Well, he did something about it. So, yeah. Right. Max Verstappen. He's on the thumbnail. He doubles down. I love Max for this, by the way. I love Max for this. So what's Max been saying again? And then we'll come to a Bahrain roundabout. I've got to get this one in. So Max Verstappen doubles down. I don't want Formula One to be close to Formula E. And his quotes are, I think, hilarious. Because, I remember on the show last week where it said, which was F1 intervene. It might even be, not last week, it was this week. And he said all that stuff, saying it's like Formula E on steroids, doesn't like driving the cars. The F1 wanted a press officer to meet with Max. They got on the phone to Red Bull and said, hey, we need to speak to Max. Max was like, I don't think so. Boop, red button them. And then he gets asked about it again today. And he just carries on talking like he doesn't care. He gives 0 F's given. So, when asked today if Formula E drivers may enter F1 because of their experience with battery management, or if the all-electric championship could even become a feeder series to F1, Max said, well, let's hope not. I mean, not about the drivers, because there are a lot of good drivers that would be able to perform also really well here. But I don't want us to be closer to Formula E. I want us to actually stay away from that and be Formula One. So don't increase the battery. Actually, get rid of the battery and focus on a nice engine and have Formula E as Formula E, because that's what they are about. I am sure with that new Gen 4 car, from what I've seen and heard talked about from some of my friends, that's going to be a very cool car. But let them be Formula E and we should stay Formula One, and let's not mix that. I'm just sharing my opinion, said Max. And then he was asked about the pushback from the FIA. He goes, we live in a free world, free speech. And yeah, that's what I felt. Not everyone needs to feel like that, but that's how I felt. And it doesn't matter, of course, what other people have to say about that. It's just, I got a question and I shared my opinion. I think I'm allowed to do that. So it's not about receiving pushback or whatever. It's like, Max, I love him. I mean, he knows this is going to anger the FIA and the F1 and the FOM. But he's like, nah. I'm doubling down on this. And what I like even more, he went even further and he said the most important thing I think he could say. Get rid of the battery. Just get rid of it completely. Just get rid of the battery. And I am so with Max on that. Get rid of the freaking battery. Let Formula E deal with that and let F1 deal with build a nice engine and let us drive. Oh, please. For the love of Formula One, let's have that happen. Sula says, the running starts will get the MGUH back. Well, I never thought, you know what? I never thought I'd ever say that. But right now, the MGU-H is looking like a pretty useful piece of kit when it comes to hybrid technology. Amon, welcome to the chat, buddy. The first race could be comedy material. I think the first race is going to be wild. Melbourne, 8th of March. Don't forget qualifying on the 7th. It's going to be wild. The start is going to be wild. Pierre Gasly's already said it. Other drivers have said it. Make sure you've got your popcorn ready for the start in Melbourne. It's going to be freaking wild. No, Sir Jay, I see you in the house. These cars are shit. Good sound, though. Go, Max, go. I agree, No, Sir Jay. I agree. Max is right. Like, get rid of the freaking battery. Jim Clark says the Ferrari turbo is not smaller. Now you're in my territory. Yeah, go on. What is it? I made the thing. It's 82 millimeters in diameter, which is bigger than Honda's, and Merck's is 85 millimeters. So how have they... Jim, here's my question, Jim. How are they managing to get their turbo spooled up about 4 seconds quicker than everybody else? Because that was the thing. I was reading it's because they had a smaller turbo. Have they got another trick? Because it looked like Hamilton's was spooling up in about 6 seconds, where everyone else about 10 seconds. What are they doing? Reese says the electric part of F1 was just a political thing. Yeah, it's to do with the EU to sell freaking EVs and to get the big manufacturers in, so they want to be in Formula One because they have to sell EVs in order to sell the proper cars. Like, yeah, I mean, it's a wild situation that Porsche can only sell one GT3 to every, like, I don't know, I'm pulling numbers out of my arse here, but like 30, you have to sell like 30 or something EVs so you can sell one GT3. And we all want a GT3. Oh, so Jim says the reason why they can spool up within 6 seconds is because he made it. I'll take that. That'll do. Good answer. Sema says smaller exhaust housing. Yeah, well, we're going to talk about Ferrari's flap in a minute as well, because that's an interesting bit of technology that Ferrari have brought to Bahrain today. Old guy chat, remember the 288 GTO and Ferrari F40? Now you're talking my language. The Ferrari F40 is my dream Ferrari. Absolutely. Dream Ferrari. If one day, if I can ever have like 2 million quid to spend on a car, I'm getting a Ferrari. I'm getting an F40. Awesome. What a car. And then I'm going to paint it black, which everyone would hate. And I'm going to make the wheels bronze because that's my favourite colour scheme. I know. Yeah, Jimbo says global warming is a piss take. I'm not even sure global warming is a real thing. I'm not convinced. 50-50. And the Drop Tune GT40, 100%, another one of my favourites. But I need to tell you what went on in Bahrain today. Let me tell you what happened in Bahrain today. So yeah, big thumbs up to Max. I know Max watches every night. Max, I'm loving you right now. Keep banging the drum. Get rid of the battery and keep speaking your truth. And keep doing this. Keep red buttoning the FIA and Formula One management. I'd just be like, if they were ringing Red Bull, I'd be like, McKees, you take that call. Tell them I'm not available. Right, let's see what happened in Bahrain today. We'll go through the times first because we also got to talk a little about Aston Martin. So, George Russell, fastest of all today by, just 100th ahead of Oscar Piastri. Leclerc, 3/10 behind. Then we've got Lando Norris, Kimi Antonelli, Isaac Hadjar, Lewis Hamilton, Carlos Sainz, Franco Colapinto up in the top 10. I wonder how often we'll see that this year. Gabriel Bortoleto, Albon, Lawson, Behrman, Gasly, Lance Stroll. Let's talk about Lance Stroll for a minute. Lance Stroll, Aston Martin did find some pace today, but they did have their adventures. Lance Stroll says we're 4.5 seconds behind the competition. I said, Bahrain, test 2, as in day 4, 5 and 6, we will see not just tenths improve, but seconds of improvement. They have found 2 seconds of improvement. Granted, they're not at the top, but 2 seconds quicker than they were. Not bad in a week. Keep on pushing, boys. Keep on pushing. Actually, we did have an incident, and I've got the video of Lance Stroll having a little pirouette today. I'll show you that in just a second. Ollie Behrman up there, Pierre Gasly, then Lance Stroll, then Esteban Ocon. Fernando Alonso slower than his teammate today by half a second. Nico Hulkenberg, Arvid Lindblad, and then we've got Valtteri Bottas and Sergio Perez in the Cadillacs, bringing up the rear. Let's have a look at this. So, as promised, this is a little treat. Who wants to see Lance Stroll? And before you say anything, I've got the video, but we're not allowed the sound. So you're going to get the pictures. You're going to see what happens. And you can tell me whether you think it's Lance Stroll's fault or not. And then I'll tell you the right answer. As you can see, little spin. I'm pretty sure we've got another angle. Here he is. Coming down the gears. He pirouettes off. He doesn't hit anything though. Now, my question to you, Lance's fault or not, and I'll tell you the right answer. Yeah, you see? All of you had the chance to go Lance bashing, but you all got it right. Of course, it's not Lance's fault. I think it was a gearbox problem. I think it was a gearbox problem. It seemed to kick into neutral when you were watching, because I watched it with the sound, obviously, but I couldn't show you the sound on this. But yeah, it was a gearbox problem. It seemed to kick into neutral then as he was it was weird. And then there was a lockup. He didn't hit anything. They took the car back to the pits and then he got back out on track. But yeah, I know, Dawley, the sound is crucial. Unfortunately, I'm not allowed to play the sound for some reason, apparently. But yeah, it locked up. I think it was a gearbox problem. Nathan says, looked a bit like rear lockup. Yeah, the rear did lock up. Rear wing closed. Front doesn't look like it did. Oh, I didn't notice that, actually. Let me just look at that again. Is that right? Did the active aero work on the rear and not the front? I missed that. Observant of you. Let me have a quick look again. It was good not to bang it up, though, the car, to be fair. So let's have a look. I think all the aero worked. Yeah, I think it was gearbox. Yeah, so Sulu said telemetry showed a power unit and gearbox problem. It wouldn't surprise me because that gearbox has been causing them some worries. They've been getting some vibration. But they did come back out and Aston Martin seemed to do all right after that. Improvements. And Dynamite said, actually, if they have two engines, no one will know but them because they can resort to the engine given to their customers and no one would know. Yeah, but for homologate... Oh, I see what you mean. So, yeah, but homologation means that they would effectively be running an engine in their car that hadn't gone through homologation. They would get caught. Sewell says your front did close. Even if it didn't, then he would have had oversteer. It would have understeered instead. Take in mind, Charles was doing it during hotter conditions compared to Russell and Piastri. Ferrari's cooking something. Ferrari's looking dead good. Speaking of Ferrari, let's go on to that. This is my interesting story, and I'm glad that we have Jim Clark because Jim Clark. I need your opinion on this. I'm just going to go to your chat. Actually, I think there's going to be a lot of crashes in the first season. Going to be tons of overtime for the lads. Yeah, I think there's going to be a ton of gearbox failures. But try and explain to me what's going on here, Jim. Ferrari surprised F1 paddock in Bahrain with a new wing behind the SF26 exhaust. So let me bring up the actual Ferrari flap. Check it out. I'm trying to make head and a tail of what is actually going on here. So the SF26 has a flap called FTM that exploits the exhaust gas flow, now also active at low gears for energy recovery. It's presented a brand new aerodynamic feature on the car for the start of this day today, Wednesday. Small wing appeared in front of the SF26 exhaust pipe, as you can see on the picture. Now, teams are allowed to place an aerodynamic device in that area of the car as long as it does not exceed 60 millimeters from the axle. This is where it gets interesting. So what Ferrari have done to make that happen is they've moved the differential as far back as possible to take advantage of the space under the deformable structure. The entire area in question was designed from the outset with the introduction of this new feature known as FTM in the Scuderia garage. Now, advantages of this solution also derive from the particular use of the 2026 power unit. The need to recharge the batteries forced engine manufacturers to also use the internal combustion engine as an electricity generator, hence the need to keep the V6 at high revs and consequently with constant combustion that produces exhaust gases even in corners taken at medium and low speeds. Here's the thing for Ferrari. If this works, it's not possible for competitors to copy the solution without having to redesign the entire rear of the car. So that's good news for Ferrari if it works. But I don't understand, how does this help recharge the battery? So that's the bit I don't get. So if our resident F1 engineer can tell me how that works, by having a flap behind the output of the gases, what's that doing to help recharge the battery? I didn't get that. So if anyone has an answer to that, let me know. And they don't know either from motorsport.com because they don't know the answer. They just know that that's what this is apparently trying to do. It's helping to recharge the battery. But how? I don't get it. It's a flap behind the exhaust gases. How is that doing anything to help? Sesfler says battery. I thought is for the diffuser. Yeah, I see. Yeah, but that's what I don't understand, Sesfler. That's my question. I understand it could be doing something with the gas coming out of the exhaust. And Peter says it's for downforce, from what I've heard. Well, I understand that would be downforce because the hot air is hitting the flap. So you're going to create more rear downforce. That's how I understand it. How the hell's that going to help battery management? So Jim Clark says, I know a bit about it, not everything, as it was not a project I worked on. I don't understand it. All I know is it's limiting the speed that the exhaust gases are leaving the exhaust, which I would have thought would have just created a little bit of downforce in the back of the car. But so Peter Arnold says it's a trick blown diffuser. So it's all about aero, nothing else, nothing to do with battery management whatsoever. All about aero. Got it. And Dynamite says, actually, if Mercs have 2 engines, no one would know if they switch out to use the one they gave to the customers mid-season. And absolutely no one know what happened. Oh, I see what you mean. So, well, apart from when they get measured, if they switch, they'll have to have 2 engines because they'll have to switch out this one they've got now. All the customer teams will run it. And then by the time the engines are getting measured, they'll all have to run the same. The one that's compliant. If you direct air into the low pressure zone, it reduces drag. Got it. It's an aero solution. So why are motorsport.com saying it's helping the battery recharge? Settori Tonello Devento. That sounds Italian to me, Jim. That's what Dawley says. Can Haas copy it easier? I don't know. It depends who's got the same rear end. Have Haas got the same rear end as the Ferrari? I mean, are they running the same rear suspension as Ferrari this year? If they are, it just depends on their chassis design, doesn't it? Haas probably are going to be, they're probably going to have the lowest barrier to entry, I would guess. But yeah, it is wind tunnel. Yeah, all about aero. So there you go. The Ferrari flap. They're calling it, what are they calling it again? I can't remember off the top of my head. They're calling it the FTM. I'm calling it the Ferrari flap. I think it's going to take off. FTM is forever now known as the Ferrari flap. Oh, look, right. Now, speaking of Ferrari in a way, we're going to talk about Cadillac. Cadillac looking to get a ban already because of their livery. Well, their livery get a ban. So Cadillac's first ever Formula One livery could be banned by the FIA over a really simple breach. So this, how did they not know this? So Cadillac's asymmetrical F1 livery breaches the regulations. The regulations stipulate that the colour scheme on Formula One cars should be symmetrical. The left-hand side of the car is white, while the right-hand side is black, as we know. Still a great livery. Now, according to Build, the FIA could ban the livery as a result, forcing Cadillac to make a change before the Australian Grand Prix in just over a fortnight. I've got one thing to say at the FIA if you do this. Boo! Boo, FIA. It's a brilliant livery. But having said that, I do have a favourite side of the livery. And I think if you're going to keep one side and match it up, keep the white side. It looks great. That's what I think. Thane says, is Merc in trouble? They have to redesign their engine and their e-fuels aren't ready. So they might need to have their e-fuels redesigned too. This will slow down the development overall. Do you think their e-fuels are going to be homologated by... I think the e-fuels have got to be homologated by the... Well, is it the 1st of March as well, the same as the engines? I think it is. So they've got what? 12 days... Oh, not even 12 days. It's less. It's 10 days. To get 9 or 10 days to get their fuel ready. I think Merc are in trouble. But they're not massively in trouble. Seven says, I thought Merc were cleared. No, Merc are not. Merc have been cleared as in they don't have an illegal engine, but they will have to adhere to a new testing procedure in August at the Dutch Grand Prix. And their engine would fail that new testing procedure. So they're in the clear as in they can run their current engine, but they do have to change their engine by August if they want to pass the test. But they've got away with it, Sema. That's the point. Merc have really got away with it, in my opinion. For 6 months, anyway. Yeah, drop tune. The white side of the Cadillac looks cooler. The black side still looks cool, but I think the white and silver with the black lettering just looks... That is my favourite side. So hopefully they'll do that. Dolly says only Shell and BP have passed, which is interesting, actually, because I think Shell is a biofuel. I think BP is a biofuel, and Aramco and Petronas are all synthetic fuels. Interesting bit of tech. Sulu says maybe a yellow Cadillac livery. I wouldn't mind a yellow car. We haven't got any yellow cars on the grid, have we? I miss those old Jordans. The old yellow Jordans. I liked it. Yeah, I don't mind a bit of a yellow car. We haven't got, yeah, why have we not got any yellow cars on the grid? We haven't got any, have we? Yeah, we need a yellow car. Could be Cadillac. I don't think they'll change it too much, though. I think it's because Cadillac say their high-end products, all of the badges on their high-end Cadillac products or GM products are all monochrome. And that's the brand they wanted to roll into Formula One. Yellow gold from the WEC would be nice. Superb from S-Flare. Yeah. Because Renault were yellow. Not since Renault, no. And we all know how good yellow was. Well, I mean, have we ever had a strong yellow Formula One team? I mean, it's interesting. I know we have Ferrari red, but did you know the original Ferrari colour was the Maranello yellow? That was apparently the most traditional Ferrari colour when Ferrari first became Ferrari. I think that's right. The yellow was apparently supposed to be. That might be for the road cars. I think Ferrari yellow. Yeah. I don't think there's ever been a Ferrari yellow Formula One team though, has there? They've always been red. Yellow badge. Yeah. Thane says, I'm sorry, but no one wants to be the yellow belly of the grid. Yeah, Thane. Danny Rick, Renault. Yeah, good one. TC, fly yellow. Red was Italy. Yeah. I do, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't mind a yellow team. And if Cadillac dominated the yellow colour, yeah, I'm here for it. Maybe like a cool yellow, more like a yellowy gold with black. So it's a bit more of a throwback to some of my favourite colours, which is like black and gold. Almost yellow. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Look at me, I'm trying to design a livery. Live. Right, but yeah, that's their issue. They haven't got long to solve it. Will they solve it? Well, I don't know. But they might. And the final story of tonight is Williams. Apparently, Williams have got a bikini body incoming. So Williams are about 20 to 30 kilos overweight at the moment, which obviously is not good. So they've got a plan to reduce 30 kilos of weight. So after Williams missed Barcelona shakedown test, they were on track last week for Bahrain. And they're obviously testing this week. And they've got some extra sensors on the FW48. And a report from Soy Motor has confirmed that Williams have a plan that they will put in place to reduce the weight of the car before the season opener in Melbourne. Williams have got a contingency plan. Among other things, it includes minimal liposuction, a bikini body makeover, the artichoke diet, or resorting to Biminin. I don't know what that is, which might suffice for other teams are insufficient to try and arrive in better shape for the Australian Grand Prix. So what they're saying there is that Williams are focusing on the next 2 weeks to strip back their weight. Now, who was it who said this? I can't remember which team principal said it. He said, weight saving is one of the hardest things to do and one of the most expensive things. Christian Horner, weight saving said it was one of the most expensive things to do in Formula One because you're redesigning so many things in order to save a kilo or half a kilo here and there, or even grams even. So I'm not sure how Williams can sort of save 20 to 30 kilograms in the next 2 weeks. Shaving a bit off here and there, because remember, all the parts are homologated, so you can't just start shaving bits off your chassis to save some, to shave some weight. Yeah, so I'm not sure. Sulo says, who calls it a bikini body makeover? Just call it a weight reduction, please. This is motorsport, not modelling. Exactly. It's nuts. Dawley says they should speak to Audi and use their Ozempic. Well, it definitely works. Thane says, has Hamilton has been saying, Hamilton's been saying that this Ferrari has his DNA, and now involved, he has been with the development of the car. So when he fails, will fans finally accept he is the problem and not the car? Ooh, Thane. What would you class as a failure? Are you saying if he doesn't win the World Driver Championship? Are you saying if he doesn't beat Leclerc? Or are you saying what's failure in this scenario? Now, this is how I would frame Hamilton's success. Before I answer the question, I think if Hamilton beats Leclerc this year, that's a successful season for him. That's actually an outstanding season for Hamilton if he beats Leclerc. Now, if Ferrari are the best team and he beats Leclerc and wins the World Drivers' title, then that's unbelievable. That is like out of this world remarkable. Now, if Leclerc wins the World Championship and beats Hamilton, and Hamilton, say, finishes second, is that a success or a failure for Hamilton? Is that enough for Hamilton to go again for another year? I think it all comes down to how close it is. I think what it is, really, Thane, I agree. He's got his DNA all over this car. He has been involved in development. He hasn't got any excuses, really, at this point. The engine looks good. Ferrari seem to have got their shit together when it comes to running the team on at track. They've been doing well in testing. So I think it comes down to this. Is he competitive at the top? Does he have a chance of winning the World Driver Championship? I think everyone would say that was a decent season for him. If he does what he did last year, and you've got Leclerc getting through to Q3, Hamilton going out in Q1, I don't think he's got anywhere to hide at that point, if that's what we're saying. Like, there were situations last year that the real problem was, if both of you were going out in Q1, then, look, the car's, awful. Now, even though the car was bad, we saw Leclerc scoring points, getting podiums, getting through to Q3, and we saw too many times Hamilton just getting it wrong, the team getting it wrong for him, and being eliminated in Q3 from silly things, from the team giving him the wrong timing, so he didn't pass the line in time to get his hot lap in. Things like that. There was so many mistakes, but ultimately it's on Hamilton at this point because Leclerc got through to more Q3. So if we're talking about that situation this year, I think Hamilton will have to say, you know what, maybe I've lost a tenth or two in age. And maybe, it's time. Maybe it's time. Maybe I'm not quick enough. But I think the excuses do disappear. That's what I think. Sorry, that was a long answer to that question, Thane. But I think it's quite nuanced. I think there's some situations where Hamilton is competing where I still think that's fairly successful. So, yeah, that's what I think. Jim Clark says the very first Ferrari factory was based in Modena before Maranello was ever thought of. Is that why we have the Modena yellow? Because the Modena yellow, isn't it? The yellow's, isn't it Modena yellow? Nathan says, you generally trade structural integrity for weight. Yeah, and that's my point, Nathan. But how can they start shaving weight off structural parts which have gone through the safety test and passed the FIA safety test? I don't think you can go, that chassis passed the safety test. As much as I'd love to, let's just shave, like 10 mil off the edge of that carbon fibre all the way around. I mean, I just don't think you could do it, right? I don't know. Jem says slim fast. Dawley says Hamilton's smart. Kim K is his fall guy. Well, and then Thane says failure is being 2 or more places down in the World Driver Championships ranking from where Leclerc is. All right, I would say yeah. I think at that point, all right, I'd agree. If that's the measurement, I think if Hamilton's not within that, I would think Hamilton probably says he's lost a tenth or two in pace. Yeah. And he hasn't got an excuse. It's just he was beaten by a quicker driver, not the car. Yeah, that's what I think. David, I can see there. David Tringle, welcome to the chat, buddy. If Hamilton feels this year he can just elope with Kim K. Oh, if Hamilton fails this year, he can just elope with Kim K. Yeah. Well, David, you know, I'm not sure. I think I'd... Yeah, exactly. I mean, he can. he can go and ride that train. Jim Clark, Max. That's me on the side of the fence. I love his don't give a shit personality. You can often bump into him online sim racing, and he does so much for people who can't afford to race. Yeah, I'm a big fan of Max at the moment. I know he has questionable. He gets away with a lot on the racetrack, doesn't he? He seems to get away with more than others, I think. And I think the FIA even let him get away with more than others. He's Max Verstappen. There's no one like him on the grid. But do I think he's got a heart? And he does put his arm around some of the rookies and other drivers. And do I think he's there for them? Yeah, I do. Do I think he's in the sim race and he's chatting to everybody and he's having a good time? But yeah, Max. And the fact that he will not be censored... That's a man after my own heart. I'm against people being censored. You know, the FIA should just, you know, let the drivers speak. And if there are problems, instead of pretending there's no problems, just fix them. Because just because the drivers aren't saying those things, the fans know, and we want those things changed anyway. And I bet if you asked, apparently there's 800 million Formula One fans around the world. And I think if you asked 800 million people, or every F1 fan of those 800 million, would you prefer the battery to disappear out of Formula One or not? I'm guessing 100% would say, get rid of the freaking battery. We don't need it. We don't want it. And, you know, if I want to watch that, I'll watch Formula E. And the degree of separation between Formula E and Formula One should be huge. And it should be, so there's no ambiguity, no batteries in F1, all the batteries in Formula E. Let me put that on a t-shirt. No batteries in F1 and all the batteries in Formula E. It's not that freaking complicated. Max is absolutely right. And if that's a problem to understand, then you're missing the point of Formula One. And that's how I see it. Yeah, Jim says he's a lovable pirate. Sue says, hey, I'm here for the batteries, but really depends how much battery power. Maybe 20% battery, not more than that. Chef says, I'm on. Modena is a city and province, just like New York is a city and state. Gemma says, put it on a hoodie. Yeah, I might do. Hoodies coming before the end of the season, I promise, and they'll be very cool. So yeah, that's your day's roundup. Don't forget, tomorrow, 2:30 GMT, we will be live, baby, with the watch along for the day 5 of the Bahrain test. And then, as per usual, we will do our normal news show, 7:30 GMT. That's it from me. Thank you so much to everyone being in the chat. Thank you to everyone who's been watching. I'm sorry that you didn't get a notification tonight. My fault, set the stream up too late. But that won't be the case tomorrow. All right, guys, have a brilliant evening. See you tomorrow, 2:30 GMT for the watch along. Ta-ta.